You've got it. Battler, Beato, I want to challenge you to a game. You cannot refuse. Not if you treasure Angie as a little sister, that is. What do you want? Lambda and I made a bet about the game between you and Beato. I must acknowledge that I've lost. At least that I've lost to Lambda. Burn tries to act all dry, but she's way more persistent than she looks. So you're saying you lost to me, but not to Battler and Beato? It seemed as though Burn Castell might smile. However, she didn't. Those cold eyes spoke without words. Battler understood. He had played so many games against Beato. Those games had been a wordless message from Beato. So he knew. He understood. She wants to fight us. Is that it? She will be a fearsome opponent. But we can't back out. I know that. We mustn't let Angie become Lady Burncastell's plaything. Beato understood as well. She understood why Burncastell was asking for one final battle. I never thought I'd see Burn fighting openly like this. Do you find that funny? Why would I? Thanks. Lambda Delta understood as well. Before the tale of Battler and Beato ended, before everything was locked away in the cat box, Burncastell would finally move from the audience to the stage. That witch who had hidden off to the side of the stage, unwilling to come out into the light, would now show that she had the courage to step forward onto the stage itself. As a friend, Lambda Delta showed that she understood Burncastell's human emotions, which had given her this courage. Is there anything I can do? Please act as an observer for my game. Sure, if you promise that you'll release Angie if we take part in your game, that is. Of course. Without such a promise, we aren't obligated to go along with this farce in any way. You may not owe me anything, but you'll never see Angie again. In that case, you can enjoy being branded as a loser for the next few centuries. Basically, you're trying to coerce them into saying, okay, if you want to get Angie back, you have to be willing to incur a penalty if you lose. Which, again, this is coercion. This is illegal. Beato, don't provoke her. This isn't a fight we can back down from. Indeed. Now that a hostage has been taken, their ability to negotiate had disappeared. However, Lambda Delta was agreeing to become an observer if that would make Burncastell promise to release Angie. Unless she held Burncastell to a promise like that, the latter would have nothing to lose. To make this final fight Burncastell wanted a proper one, Lambda Delta made her agree to this. Of course, Lambda. I promise when the game ends, I'll release Angie. Don't make a fool of me, okay? When I get shamed, I never let go of the one who did it until they regret it. Lambda Delta spoke in a soft, threatening tone, basically implying, hey, I know the types of word games that we fucking play. I'm trusting you to be saying this in a straightforward manner in terms of how your promise is. If you, 1, break your promise, or 2, find some loophole to where you're like, oh, well, I technically kept to the agreement because I released her, but I released her into, a place that's horrible. Like, no, you know what I mean. It's like those things with the genie, like, oh, you asked a wish, I grant you a wish, but it's not what you wanted. Like, no, genie, you know what I'm asking for. It's like if I ask you to make me a sandwich, I'm asking you to put a fucking sandwich on a plate in front of me, and a good sandwich at that. It should be the best sandwich. It shouldn't be, something wrong with the sandwich, or make me literally into a sandwich. You know what I mean. So it's not fair for you to turn the rules around like that. Because, oh, I technically granted your wish. No, you didn't. You know what I was asking. You know what was being asked. Just because you can find some sort of legal technical loophole doesn't mean you're fulfilling the spirit of what was asked of you. So, even though it's technically according to the rules, it's still dishonest. and disingenuous, and it is wrong. However, Berncassel laughed lightly, as though the look on Lambda Delta's face was merely cute. I swear it on our friendship. Phew. Lambda Delta whistled and grinned. Apparently this was the most reliable oath Berncassel could utter. Okay. Lambda Delta nodded, and looked between Battler and Berncassel and spoke. By the name of Lambda Delta, which is certainty, I accept the role of observer for your fight. Battler, Beato, you have no objections, right? Battler and Beato nodded at each other, then nodded at Lambda Delta to show their determination. I'm so glad we finally get to fight each other. I had a feeling I'd end up fighting you sooner or later. Since when? I'm not sure. It might have been before I even learned your name. Battler vaguely remembered her speaking to him somewhere in an unconscious world he couldn't recall. At that time, it sounded like she was giving him advice for his fight with Beato, but thinking back on it, there was a bit more to it than that. She might have been a cat fighting from the sidelines, too scared to go out into the bright sunlight, so I had a vague premonition that eventually we would stand opposed to each other on the game board in some way. She was also one of the players. Now, at the very end, as the game board is being put away, she's finally found the courage to step up and up onto the stage. I'd like to accept your brave challenges in the name of the courageous girl who was once your piece. I forced Erica to fight a duel. I wanted to win. And even more strongly, I didn't want to lose. The fear of possibly tasting defeat tormented me, and thinking back on it, I envied you two back then. Erica was a great piece of yours, and my rival. I won't forgive you for abandoning her in the end and burying her in the depths of oblivion. Just what do you want me to do? Apologize to Erica? Save Erica from the depths of oblivion, and invite her to this party. Save? Erica? I feel the same as Battler. She was a piece who stood in opposition to us, but she was only faithfully fulfilling her role. There can be no game without a rival. She remains our enemy, but she's also an important friend to us. Even though she made you suffer so much, we fought a fair fight. The outcome may have changed our fates, but now that we've dueled each other, we'll always be friends. I don't really agree with this logic, but I'm sure Goku probably would, but I don't. You want to be their friend too, don't you, Bern? That's why you want a fair fight with them now, isn't it? Are you laughing at me? We aren't. On the contrary, we welcome it. Even though I've taken a hostage, if you didn't, you probably wouldn't have been able to come up onto the stage. You know, all this aside, you know, we're traumatizing Angie by making her see dead bodies. I mean, I don't feel like that's really forgivable. There had been no need to take a hostage. Battler and Beato had been more than willing to accept this final duel if Berncassel wished it. It was hard to make out anything from Berncastell's silent expression. Fine. What's fine? I'll release Erica from the depths. I'm glad you decided to do this. For someone as proud as Berncassel, forgiving the piece who had caused her defeat should have been nearly unbearable. Battler knew this, so he realized how much this bit of compassion had cost Berncassel. Berncassel snapped her fingers, and a black cat slipped out of her shadow. I tossed her all the way into the deepest parts of oblivion. It might take her a while to get here. It matters not. There's no danger of the food and drink running out. Go, kitty! Guide that kid here. When she gave this order, the cat melted into the darkness, its bell jingling. I can hardly believe that you'd forgive Erica. I don't plan on forgiving her, so she's not my piece anymore. Anyone feel like picking her up? After all, you already picked up Leon and Will. Berncassel, you have my thanks. Okay, enough with the sentimentality. I've already had as much as I can bear. Sure. Where will we have the game? As far as I As far as I care, we could have it here, with all the noise, or in the usual quiet spot. Lady Berncastel has already shown that she has the courage to stand before before a great many people. There is no point in making her suffer any longer. Good point. Then let's go to the usual place. Any objections, Bern? None. Sorry, partygoers. We'll be heading out for a bit, but please continue to enjoy yourselves. Zapa-fa-fur! Liven this place up. When Erica gets here, let's have everyone give her a warm welcome. Yes, Lady Lambda Delta, your wish is our command. Now then, let us take her to the usual room, a fitting place for our battle of wits. When Battler snapped his fingers, space shattered. They were now in the smoking room of the witches, the place where witches had once debated, schemed, and reasoned all they could. Berncastel had been invited there once again, and the final game would now begin. Do you have a game prepared? Of course. I worked hard in this game and I'm pretty proud of it. So, Bern will be the game master, and Battler and Beato will be the players?